Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin, a member of the House Armed Services Committee and the Committee for Transportation and Infrastructure, is with me now. Great to see you. First time in the pandemic we've been together.
Good to be with
Congrats on the second born coming up.
Oh, thank you.
So your family is expanding. Look, what do you think when you hear Senator Kennedy there kind of ticking down why Americans don't trust what's coming out of the White House?
Well, Senator Kennedy's right. The president's comments were completely out of touch with reality. And think about how the narrative has evolved over the past year. First, they were blaming evil American domestic energy producers. Then they shifted to blaming Vladimir Putin. And now it seems the president is just saying the quiet part out loud and saying Americans have to suck it up, endure the pain so that we can expedite this transition to electric vehicles. Well, where's the electricity going to come for? Where are the batteries going to come for electric vehicles, right? All it does is increase our dependency on China in a perverse way. And right now, John Kerry's in Davos making the ridiculous argument that we need to work with the Chinese on climate change. The Chinese don't care.
Didn't he fly there, though, on a private plane?
Well, there, of course, is the hypocrisy at the heart of the climate change cult that John Kerry is the high priest of. And look at what this president did from the first moment he came into office. He canceled Keystone Pipeline, right? That cost my state, Wisconsin, thousands of good-paying jobs. And the fact that he continues to play the blame game as Americans are struggling and paying over $4 a gallon at the pump. I filled up a Quick Trip before we left Wisconsin a few days ago, over $4 a gallon. This is hurting working-class Americans. They need to reverse their disastrous energy policy because it also gives our adversaries a big geopolitical gift as well.
Oh, absolutely. Look at Saudi Arabia now, you know, talking to other countries that we wish that they wouldn't about the high price of gas and how they can take advantage. You know, they're talking to Russia now.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, your enemy of your enemy, I won't even go. It's been said. A new poll shows that priorities are shifting for Americans, while broad support for U.S. sanctions on Russia have not faltered. Now, 45% say the nation's biggest priority should be sanctioning Russia effectively, while 51% say it should be limiting damage to the U.S. economy. Those numbers were exactly reversed in April. What's happening, Congressman?
Well, listen, I think there's broad bipartisan support for a tough on Russia policy. I think a lot of people have been inspired by what they see the Ukrainians doing on the ground, bravely fighting, using asymmetric weapons, very creatively sinking Russian warships, and our posture of providing intelligence, providing certain weapon systems. I think there's buy-in to that. Now, here's the thing to link it to what we talked about previously. We can maintain this economic war on Russia, but we can't maintain it while having a simultaneous war on domestic energy production in America. If we take key steps to reverse that war, if we open up leases for drilling on federal lands, if we get the radicals out of FERC, if we do a variety of things to go in a different direction, I think we can be at the cusp of an American energy renaissance, which, by the way, will actually be better for the environment. If we invest in next-generation technology, we can have a policy that's good for Americans economically and also fundamentally more environmentally friendly than what the Democrats are selling.
Can this administration get that done with this president?
I've seen no evidence. The president seems to be held captive to the far-left progressive wing of his party, for which climate change is the top issue. And at times, his foreign policy seems to be contradictory because there's a wing that believes climate change is the top issue and that we need to work with China as opposed to getting tough on China.
Oh, that's interesting, too. So he doesn't know which way to turn, which might explain why when we're short on gasoline, we don't drill at home. We turn to Venezuela, the dirtiest manufacturer on the planet. All right, you said war on domestic economics. I put that down. So we're looking at a bifurcated situation, clearly a war with Russia and Ukraine after the invasion by the Russians. And then it probably feels to Americans like there's war on them right now every time they try to fill up. Let me get to this. Border Patrol released a suspected terrorist who crossed into the United States illegally, and it took Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, 2 weeks to re-arrest him. That's according to a leaked memo obtained by Fox News. The 35-year-old Colombian man was released near Yuma, Arizona on April 18th with an electronic monitoring device as an alternative to detention. Now, if he had a career history, maybe he found a way out of that. The FBI flagged him 3 days later. But ICE did not get authorization to go get him until May 4th. They caught him in Florida on May 6th. Former acting ICE chief Tom Homan says the administration cares more about optics than about safety. Let's watch.
Border Patrol agents have told me their command wants them to process and release quick. So they're not even waiting for the responses to the terrorist screening center when they run these people through the checks. Because the focus of this administration is to process and release quickly, so there doesn't appear to be overcrowding, so there doesn't appear to be a crisis.
Business as usual, too, on the border. The Daily Mail reports that on the very day Title 42 was set to end, officials released hundreds of illegal immigrants into the United States. Congressman Gallagher, what is the blind spot that the Biden administration has on this?
Well, we talked about the first thing the president did when he came into office on January 21st was cancel Keystone. The second thing he did was open up the southern border. And despite all the evidence, despite the ongoing and growing chaos at the southern border, despite not just this incident, but the fact that we've had 42 people that were on the terrorist screening database try and cross the southern border illegally, the president is unwilling to secure the border. It's a disaster not just for southern border states, but for states like mine, Wisconsin, because we deal with drug cartel-related murders. And, of course, the fentanyl crisis affects everybody, killing tens of thousands of Americans.
Congressman Gallagher, let me ask you this, because I haven't heard it answered. I know I haven't asked it, but I will of you. How important is it that maybe it's not the American people, but that people who would go after those 42 suspected terrorists know contemporaneously when they are in the country? Because, you know, we didn't hear that for a very long time.
It's a hugely important issue. Here's the other issue, because this guy got a GPS tracker and then a court date. Here's a problem with our immigration court system. There's no contempt authority in the court system. So people can defy their court dates, they can make a mockery of the court system, and there's no ability to enforce order in the courtroom because of that simple fact. So it's not just a matter of building the wall and securing the southern border. It's not just a matter of increased personnel and technology.
Although you need all of that.
You need all of that.
From your perspective, I've heard you argue.
100%. We need a defense in depth. We need the Remain in Mexico policy to be permanent law. We need to reform our asylum process, but we also need to fix the immigration court system. So, again, the border's in chaos. It's fueling a drug crisis in America. And thus far, this administration has not shown any willingness to change course.
I had 4 sheriffs on from the border yesterday, and 2 of them were not from border states. But, you know, we're all border states when you take into consideration fentanyl. What does it cost Wisconsin? We don't have a lot of time, but I want to hear.
It costs us thousands of lives every year. And here's the other thing. I mean, a lot of this fentanyl is being produced in China, shipped to Mexico, and it's not just a matter of it crossing the southern border. Then there are Chinese entities that launder money for the drug trafficking organizations. So China is actually the world's biggest drug dealer. And so our primary long-term adversary is profiting off poisoning America's youth right now. It's a totally absurd situation. We must secure the border, and Republicans need to make this a key issue going forward. And we need to deliver on our promises, which we haven't in the past.
China, money laundering. I knew that you'd bring us a new nugget today. I mean, that's just one more way that they're hitting us, the communist government of China. Great to see you.
Great to see you.
Thank you for being in focus.